Welcome to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I started an eco conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. Now, Oxford Clay, I don't just make pottery, I also make books and courses for other potters who want to be more environmentally friendly in their pottery making. And that's what this podcast is all about. And I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Tomlinson. Thank you so much for joining me today because we're in episode 6 of the 10-part series of making a mug, a raw glazed mug on the potter's wheel. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a really great technique for flattening the base, the very, very base foot of the mug. And it makes a really like sharp base, not sharp as in sharp, but just sharp, sharp looking. And then we can just sponge around to like get rid of any of those sharp edges and stuff. But it's a great technique that I'll show you. I'll talk you through like how to use to make that base like super, super flat, looking really good. And then we're also going to be talking about maker's marks and like how to do a maker's mark. And I show you how I do my maker's mark. And yeah, just to say thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. So let's get on with the episode. Hello, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. So our mug is really taking shape now. This is really exciting. We've made it on the wheel. We've turned the base, trimmed the base. We've made a handle, added the handle, stuck it on. So far, it hasn't cracked off, so it's going well. And in this episode, I'm going to be showing you one way. Those are different ways of doing a maker's mark in the base of your pot, so that you know that you made it. Everyone knows forevermore that you made it. And we're also going to be showing you a really good technique for making the base of your pot. You can also use it on rims of pots as well, actually, but making the base of your pot, the foot really flat. So it's going to really, if you put your drink down on a table, it's going to be like super flat and completely stable. So that's what we want, and it's both these techniques are like super simple, the maker's mark and the base technique. And so yeah, I'll show you in this episode. Okay, so or talk about it if you're listening on the podcast. So okay, so the first thing to say is that making a maker's mark, it's really simple. You can literally just, I mean, you can paint it on with, say, like, a glaze or an oxide or something, if you've got a foot which is kind of inverse, indented into your pot, because then that's not going to touch the kiln shelf when it gets fired. But a really good way of doing it, a kind of better way, in my opinion, only because it's sort of like you don't have to worry then about your pot like sticking to the kiln shelf, is if you either like scratch something into the base or you press something into the base. So some potters have their own kind of little bespoke mark that they press in. It could be like a little stamp you can get from like those kind of old printing presses that are made out of metal. You could just stamp some letters in it. You could scratch something in it with like, say like a potter's needle or a knife or a biro or a pencil or something like that. Like I just used to use a pencil and just scratch my initials into my pottery whenever I was at evening classes. But you can also get what? Stamps made, like bespoke stamps. And I think they're 3D printed and they're like acrylic stamps. And they're so cool because you can get like any lettering you want done, or you could even get like a logo done. And sometimes they're actually called like soap stamps as well. And you get, yeah, basically any design printed. So I actually got one that says like Oxford Clay. I got that like printed, 3D printed. And I'm going to stamp that into the base of my pot. So, okay, let's do this. Okay, so the thing to say is that you're going to need to do this probably at the leather hard stage, because that's the best stage for like stamping or scratching into pottery. But it's a really good idea to like support the base, because you're going to be pressing something in, or you're going to be scoring something into the base. It's a really good idea to support it as you're doing it. So just going to move this bucket of water. So, okay, so I actually use a jar to support when I do this in my own pottery. Like when I slip cast stuff, I do this. And I use a jar, and I basically put the pot over a jar, and I put a little bit of cork on the jar. That just like helps to support it. I think this is going to be okay. I don't think it's going to make a mark inside that badly. You can also probably, cover something with a cloth to make it like super, super soft. That's just going to support the base when I make the maker's mark. So I'm literally just putting it over the jar. Um, and then we're just going to stamp in. I don't want to go like too deep, but I do want all the lettering to show. So I'm just stamping it in there now, and I'll show you what that looks like now. Just take it off the jar carefully. Really don't want to ruin this pot now. So, lots of videos doing it. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. That's what that looks like. Hopefully you can see it. Just says like Oxford clay, basically, in the base of a mug. Yeah, I didn't want to go down too deep, so it's kind of faint lettering there. Okay, let's get on to this technique for making this base really sharp. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but the base isn't completely flat. It's got few little bits of clay on, little tiny bits, and it's kind of a little bit wiggly. And that's just because when I took it off the wheel, I put it on the back of a tile, which has kind of like um, a kind of rough pattern on it, and it kind of, probably indented it on the base. And so, but that's fine because we can use this technique to make the base really, really flat. Okay, so the things you're going to need for this are: you need a bucket of water. Let me just get the bucket of water in view so you can actually see this bucket of water. There we go. And you're going to also need something really, really flat. So a really good thing to use is like a tile. Tiles are often like super, super flat, like just a normal glazed tile, that you get, say, like if you were going to tile your kitchen or something. They're really, really super flat. You can also use a piece of wood. They're sometimes a bit less flat. You can use a piece of slate. They're really good for this. Apart from little tiny bits of slates can sometimes break off. Anything that's really flat, you could use like a chopping board, like a big heavy wood chopping board, or like, even like a plastic chopping board or something, or anything that's super flat. That's what you want for this, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be twisting the pot onto this super flat surface, and you want it to be like really, really, really flat. So the next thing you need is some kind of cloth. Now I think tea towels are really perfect for this. They're really good. You want a fine weave tea towel. So this tea towel is very fine weave, like cotton tea towel. And what we're going to do is just dip it in the water, bucket of water, and you want to wring it out, but not like too much. We're not wringing it completely. If it's if we were going to dry it on the washing line or something, we're just kind of there's quite a lot of dampness in that cloth. There's if I hung it up, it probably would start dripping. Yeah, so we do want a little bit of water left in there, and we're going to just fold it over our super, super flat surface. So we don't want any wrinkles in there. We just want it to be really, really flat. We're kind of stretching the wet cloth across the very flat surface. And I'm actually using the side of this tea towel, which is the least grain side. So I'm going to dry my hands with another tea towel that's dry. Um, Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our pot, and we just want to literally we're going to hold the tile with one hand, and then we're just going to twist the pot onto this cloth with the other hand. Okay, I'm just going to use two hands now to like twist the pot. You can just pull it off, and that has made a really, really, really flat base. Should have probably got another tile, that would have been good, but then we're just going to put um, the pot onto a really flat tile, and you can see how flat that base is. So that just literally took a couple of twists, and then we got it just basically wiped off all the little bits of clay, the wibbly bits of clay, and we've got a really, really, really flat base. So that's literally all there is to it. So if you've got a very uneven base, you could twist that pot on there for a little while, and then it would, it's just kind of going to rub the clay off. And if you're doing loads, you might need to dip, because you can see the cloth has got like quite saturated with clay. So like if you've twisted a pot onto a cloth, it does get saturated, and you will need to like rinse that cloth and then kind of do it. You can do it again, or you can just move the cloth around, actually, where you get a fresh bit, because you kind of need it to be clay free to kind of have that, like, the nice abrasive effect of the cloth. As soon as you get loads of clay in it, it's just going to create loads of slip, and you don't really want that. So yeah, and then you can just wash your cloth in your bucket, and dry your hands, and then yeah, just to show you that really, really, really flat base that it's created. And we just want to then we're going to dry this pot now in the damp box again. We want it to be um, drying really slowly, really evenly. So it's going to go back in the damp box, and then once the pot is like completely dry, then we're going to raw glaze it. So that's going to be the next step, is going to be like making our glaze that's suitable for raw glazing, and then I'll show you how I would like raw glaze this pot. Then we're going to fire it. Then it's going to be ready. Then we're going to make a cup of tea and relax. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode, and wishing you very happy potting until the next episode, and I will see you soon. Goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me on that episode. And if you want to find out more about eco-friendly pottery, head over to the Oxford Clay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. Can't wait to see you there.